So a common question a lot of people have about grappling, for example, in jiu-jitsu, is how to schedule their training. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. I'm going to use a specific example of the guy who I was talking about in the previous video. So for him, he's with me twice a week. He's with me Monday and Thursday, both around lunchtime, and we split those up into Monday being a heavier session. I'm not going to say a max effort day, but something similar. And then Thursday being essentially a dynamic effort day. So it's lighter, the intensity is less, more volume though, on accessories at least. For his jiu-jitsu, he's training Monday as well, so he's doubling up that day. Tuesday and Wednesday, he's just with me Thursday. Friday and Saturday and Sunday, he takes completely the rest day. The problem with the training is that I'm not his jiu-jitsu coach. I don't have any say really in his jiu-jitsu training, which is unfortunate, but it's something we have to work with. So what we do to address that, so I'm aware of it, we keep a spreadsheet that we share, and the way we kind of monitor his perceived exhaustion essentially after each session he has for jiu-jitsu, what he did, kind of just a brief overview of what he did, so that I have some idea just for his overall outlook of what his week is like or has been like. So when he comes in, this is where we adjust the training based on everything. So he comes in, the first thing we do is sit down and we talk for 5 minutes about we talk about what his training is like. Obviously we kind of go over again what I see in the spreadsheet, and we address some things like how sore he is, perceived exhaustion, how his sleep's been, his diet, stress at work, at home, etc. Because he's not a professional athlete. He is a normal guy. He's a pretty high level, but he has a job, he has a wife. This isn't his full-time gig. So after we do all that, we typically do some RPR work, which is reflexive performance reset. You can look it up if you really want me to make a video on it, but it's kind of a boring topic. Look it up. It's a good way for athletes to kind of assess where they're at. So that's basically the first physical assessment I do of him is the RPR. So I see how everything's moving and go from there. So look up RPR if you want to look more into that. It's kind of hokey, but I think it's very useful, honestly. And then we start warming up, and that's where I judge even more so where his mobility is at, what's looking weak, how's the barbell moving, stuff like that. And from there, after all of that, we audible as we go. So we aren't doing random shit based on how he's feeling that day, because we do have certain exercises we want to hit, and we want to hit certain intensities, but we will basically adjust based on that warm-up. So we won't necessarily adjust the entire intensity of the workout. We might just adjust the intensity of certain movements even. So for example, he comes in and his upper body is super sore and just fatigued. We'll probably back off the upper body accessories or work, or maybe eliminate altogether, depending. And if his lower body is fresh, then we have no reason to back off on that. If he's just coming in full body fatigue, he hasn't been sleeping well, we'll probably back off the intensity of the entire session. And if he's super beat up, we might not even do any strength training at all, honestly. Sometimes, I'd say probably once a month, maybe we do what a lot of people call a restorative session. So we'll do some super easy band work. We'll do some sets like 30 to 50, just some tricep push downs, curls, hamstring curls, stuff like that. And then we'll go through some mobility work. We'll usually have them do like shoulder and knee and every other joint cars, control rotator rotations that I've made a few videos about. Just to keep him healthy, because if he's coming in so banged up, where I feel that strength training is just going to set him back farther, we won't do any strength training typically. Some other things, he used to run, so oftentimes doing 2-day workouts several times a week, and usually the second session was running and road work and stuff like that. I had him completely stop running, and his conditioning got better because he was basically overworking himself. So I'm not saying he'll never run again, and that's a good thing for everyone, but for his specific case, he was doing too much work, and the running was exacerbating issues he already had. For example, he had shin splints, which is something to address at the beginning. We fix his shin splints, which is pretty easy. You just strengthen That's what I'm doing on that too, oddly. The tibialis anterior, I got rid of that. But he's basically overworking himself. And the other thing is, like, part of the reason we talk a lot and communicate is it helps me find weaknesses he has, not just strength-wise, but in his grappling, which we can address in the gym, which I talked about a little bit in the last video, like addressing weaknesses and fixing imbalances, which is the main issue we have, but certain things we might want to work on in the future, if nothing else, for example, is grip strength and stuff like that. And going back to me not being able to control his jiu-jitsu, it would be optimal if I had some say in it, because I personally would have like light, medium, and heavy days, so to speak, in his jiu-jitsu, where some days are easier than others. The only time I really have any say is Monday nights. I was kind of able to convince him and his coach to come to an agreement where that session's pretty easy, just technique stuff. But a lot of it's kind of out of his control as well, because you can't really say for sure who's going to be there, who's he'll be on the mat with, and whatnot. But it would be nice if I had some say, but I don't. And typically, the strength and conditioning coach doesn't have a say in that kind of shit. So, in any sport, but would be nice. So yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Again, I'm not a jiu-jitsu expert at all, but I am good at getting people better at their sport. Take a shot for every time I say and that's about it. Again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to address them as best I can. So thank you, and that's it. Bye, guys.